It might sound like risky business starting a new airline with Australia still in the grip of COVID-19, but Bonza is hoping to do just that, soaring into the skies next year, focusing on the low-cost holiday traveller.
Bonza won't be taking on the competitive Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane routes, instead talking to 45 regional cities across the country.
Whether Australia's population in these regional centres is large enough to support that model remains to be seen.
In a market with a growing airline graveyard filled with the likes of Compass, Ansett, Impulse and Tiger, the real test next week, will passengers be impressed?
I'm happy that there's more competition, that's always good.
It's low frequency and leisure focus, so 2, 3, 4 times a week generally.
$79, but Bonza's headline fares are under $50, $49 from Coffs Harbour and Port Macquarie.
To create new point-to-point leisure routes.
The big question, can it last?
I believe Bonza can last, simply connecting dots that no one else wants to connect.
And Australian aviation is a tough game. Bonza hopes to fly by the middle of next year. Eddie Meyer, 9 News.
There's some big news this morning out of the airline industry. Bonza has abruptly cancelled all flights, leaving passengers stranded at airports right around the country.
Well, Bonza has collapsed. I can't say I didn't see it coming, but then again, I also did not see it coming. And it happened so suddenly, and it's a real big shame, but you know, it is what it is. Bonza was attempting to start a very small, low-budget airline that didn't really, meet the criteria that an airline in Australia could meet. The competition here is very tough, but, it is what it is. This is my last video that I will ever make in regards to Bonza, unless they restart. That's a different story. But this is it. Last video. Hope you enjoy. Welcome to Kira Hill, here in the beautiful suburb of Coolangatta. Just ahead of me is Surfers Paradise, and about 700 metres away is the New South Wales border. But today I'm not flying to New South Wales, instead I'm flying to the island state of Tasmania with Bonza in just over 1.5 hours time. With the risk of sunburn being extremely high today, as it is the middle of summer, I didn't spend very long on that hill, only a couple of minutes. The Gold Coast is one of the world's most famous surfing locations, with a staggering 30 kilometres or 18.6 miles of pristine coastline. The most famous spot on the entire 4 stretches of beach is Surfers Paradise in the heart of the Gold Coast. Getting to the airport from Kira Hill is very simple. You could either walk there, just like I did, or drive, which I opted to do today.
5 minutes later.
The Gold Coast Airport is basically a long corridor. My personal recommendation when dropping family members off is to drop them at the arrivals area, as it's less crowded. Upon arriving at the airport, I proceeded inside to the arrivals area, turning immediately right and making my way towards check-in. Gold Coast Airport is a leisure airport, and most routes served here are to the major cities, such as Sydney or Melbourne. At the end of 2023, Bonza made Gold Coast Airport its third hub airport after Melbourne, Tullamarine and of course the Sunshine Coast. Check-in for Bonza is located in the middle of the check-in area next door to Jetstar and Qantas. After a quick and easy check-in using the kiosks, I proceeded forward to drop off my bag. After the whole check-in process was completed, I turned around and made my way towards security. Security here at the Gold Coast Airport is in the very centre of the building, in between the check-in area and arrivals hall. Once I had cleared security, I decided to hang around the terminal waiting for my flight to board. Soon the boarding call was made and I proceeded to my gate. Boarding for today's flight commenced at Gate 5, which is the northernmost domestic gate. Upon walking outside and onto the apron, I got my first look at today's aircraft, which is a Boeing 737 MAX 8, registered as Charlie Foxtrot Lima Hotel, India. She rolled off the assembly line at the Seattle Boeing Field Airport, being delivered brand new to Flair Airlines of Canada in February 2020. Under a wet lease agreement, Flair has leased this aircraft and one other to Bonza, which can still very clearly be seen on the fuselage and interior of the aircraft. Flair's 737 MAX 8s are in an all-economy class layout, with 189 seats spread across in a 3-3 layout. Interestingly, there is no row 1 on the right side. Today I shall be seated in 9 Foxtrot. The seat has 29 inches of pitch and 17 inches of width. There is a standard tray table that folds down and extends. In the seat pocket you'll find a safety card and Wi-Fi card only. Above are individual reading lights, air vents and flight attendant call button.
Straps in the front and breathe normally. Do not remove this mask until you are advised to by a crew member.
Soon we commenced our pushback from stand 2, 7 minutes ahead of schedule.
Put your own mask on first and then assist your fellow travelers.
We taxied to runway 32 via Alpha and Charlie.
Bonza 1755, the whole position short delay.
Now please enjoy this unedited takeoff.
Right. 7955, clear for takeoff.
After takeoff, we spun around over the Coral Sea and setting a southerly course towards Launceston. Flight time today is 2 hours and 20 minutes, covering a distance of 1,036 miles or 1,667 kilometers, cruising at 36,000 feet. After takeoff, I got an excellent view of the area we just departed from, including Tweed Heads and Coolangatta. I also managed to spot QF880 arriving in from Melbourne. As we passed into New South Wales, we flew directly over Lismore, one of the northernmost towns in New South Wales. On board Bonza is free Wi-Fi for their entertainment. To connect, firstly you have to enable flight mode and connect to their Wi-Fi. Then scan the QR code in the seat pocket in front. Finally, you have to fill out all your details, including your name, email and seat number. After all this, you can finally browse Bonza's entertainment and menu. Entertainment on Bonza is fairly limited still, as not much is provided. There is a moving map feature which I absolutely love, but is not as good as Qantas's is. Unlike with every other Australian airline, Bonza is different in that there is no cart service. Instead, you can place an order on your phone and the crew will bring you your order. In saying that, there are different many food choices to choose from, including tucker, booze, thirst quenchers and merch. I decided to hold off on buying any food yet. Later, we passed over one of the largest cities in the country, Sydney, my home. And down below, I could see the Illawarra train line towards Wollongong. Later on, as we passed over Shell Harbour Airport, I decided to buy a mix of food, including a harissa veggie and hummus sandwich, pizza-flavoured fava beans, and Saxby's lemonade, all of which were incredibly delicious. I particularly liked the sandwich as it had roasted sweet potato in the mix. All round, great food served on board. As I was eating, we flew directly over another small town. This time it was St George's Basin on the south coast. "25 minutes later, we left the Australian mainland behind, and down below on the coastline was Cape Conran. On board Flair's 737 MAX 8s are 3 bathrooms, 1 at the front and 2 at the rear. Inside is everything you typically expect to find for an aircraft bathroom, including a generic hand soap. soon we commenced our descent into Launceston. As we started our descent over Flinders Island, there wasn't much land to be seen, as it was all covered by the very inconveniently positioned clouds. The clouds themselves made up for the lack of a ground view, as their fluffy white peaks danced around the aircraft, giving this descent the feeling of being on a roller coaster. Now please enjoy this unedited landing. After landing, we taxied back to the terminal via Alpha. We pulled into Gate 6, 5 minutes early. Stepping off the aircraft, I thanked all the Canadian crew one last time before leaving the aircraft, and stepping outside into the freezing cold winds that were currently at Launceston Airport. Bonza's route network consists of flights that up until now 90% of have not existed before. For example, Toowoomba to Townsville or Mount Isa to the Gold Coast. I personally have found during my research that these flights depart at odd times and are never really that consistent. For example, today's flight departed at 10:10 AM, however 5 days later it was to depart at 6 AM. Getting to experience a Canadian airline domestically in Australia has to be one of the most unique ways I've travelled. It's not often that these kind of flights happen, but when they do, it's a real treat. I actually spoke to the crew whilst in flight, and they much prefer flying in Australia rather than the freezing cold of Canada. But don't get me wrong, they sure do miss home. This flight wasn't super full, only around 70%. I suspected this was due to the Bonza scare, as I like to call it, which was when Bonza cancelled a lot of flights from the Gold Coast during this summer season. I was unfazed by this, and I'm glad that Bonza was able to pull through. I hope to one day soon fly with Bonza again, perhaps when they open a new route. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Make sure to check out my other videos on my channel, and don't forget to push that notification bell if you enjoy my content, as I post new content every Friday at 8 PM Sydney time. And I hope to see you again in the next one. See you later!